Hey guys, we're just getting started here in a second. Please take a second to put in where you're calling in from. It's always fun. You can do that in the chat. I'm sitting just outside of San Francisco. Gabriel, where are you? I know you're traveling the world. Where are you this today?
In Spain, in Malaga.
He's in Malaga, Spain. Beat that. Somebody's got to be in someplace amazing and exotic. Stefano, yes sir. You got to be in the crazy places.
Beach in Barbados. There you go.
Fantastic. I'm not seeing my chat window for some reason. Okay. Gabriel, you'll have to monitor that. For some reason, the chat. There we
Yeah,
go.
I can see George in Boring Houston. Yeah,
Okay.
according to his words.
I see.
San Luis Obispo. Okay, Nashville.
Nice spot. It's a nice spot. Nice spot.
San Francisco.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Today's webinar is focused on failure mode analysis and how we use AI for that. Can everybody, I assume you guys can all see my screen. Yeah, Gabo?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna take you quickly through Praxie, what we do in general, try not to make it too salesy, and then we'll focus on the failure mode analysis process and how AI can power that and really drive optimization. So a little background about the company. We've been in business now for 7 years, lots of customers across the globe. We started the company primarily, my last company, I was at SAP, and everywhere I went, I would see this picture of lots of stuff not digitized, some core systems, but then, lots of Excel, et cetera. And we really thought, you can't get the benefits of digital transformation and artificial intelligence and all this great stuff that we all know about if you're not digital. So we created a platform that helps you get from that non-digital state to a totally digitized environment. We can deliver these completely customized applications to your exact process in a matter of a few weeks, connect them to your core systems, and you're off to the races. So now we'll talk about understanding failure mode and effects analysis in manufacturing and how our platform can be used to do that. A little bit of background on failure mode effects analysis. It's a systematic process, and we'll provide this deck to everybody. It's a structured approach to evaluate potential failure modes. I'll go through some templates here in a second, but you're trying to identify the risks and prioritize those risks around severity, occurrence, and detectability. Those get multiplied up, and they create what's called an RPN, a risk number, that you then can track the overall risk with. It's a preventive action. It's designed to eliminate these kinds of failures. It's also great because it helps with cross-functional teams. It provides documentation of the process, and a framework for doing continuous improvement. It also focuses on customer. A lot of the failure mode questions are really designed to address customer focus and the quality and reliability for the customers. It creates objective evidence and history for regulatory compliance, and should also, because it's eliminating risks and errors, et cetera, reduce overall costs. So that's what failure mode analysis is. The steps in it are: you define the process, you identify the potential failures, and I'll show you some of the templates you can create, sort of drop-down lists if you want for those kinds of things. Analyze those different failure modes so that those you're determining the priorities of each of those. You then do your prioritization along those vectors, which will show you around the potential failure modes, develop and implement control plans and action plans to address them, and then track your before and after risk priority number, your RPN. And the risk priority number is a multiplication of the different failure modes, which we'll show you in a second, and that'll give you your overall risk for that particular failure mode. Now, before I get into, actually, I'm going to jump here first. So in the types of failure mode effects analysis, you can do it in the design process or in what they call process or production side of it. And traditionally, if you've ever worked with the failure mode analysis template, they look like this. Is actually our Excel version. We had built an Excel version years ago, and you've probably played with Excel versions yourself. In an effort to get out of Excel versions, we then created a digital online version where you can create multiple failure mode effects analysis on processes and create those RPNs. We've now blown this away and moved to a complete AI one, which is what we're going to be demonstrating today. But basically, the idea is to capture the information, the steps, the failure mode possibilities, and then calculate your RPN based on severity, occurrence, and detection. And you can rate those 1 to 10. Now, those ratings, often you'll have a reference for, and you can define this reference in relationship to how you want to run these in your company. There are good standards out there. This is an example of one. And it goes from 1 to 10 on each of these severity, occurrence, and detection. So it gives you those three vectors that then get multiplied, and that turns into your RPN. The idea is to lower that overall RPN over time. Now, I want to talk for a minute about how AI, and then we're going to demonstrate that, and how AI can be applied to this and other types of process. So this is kind of an architectural diagram of how Praxie deals with AI, but basically you can have your core applications. They can also be Praxie applications, legacy databases, or machine data, and that data comes into Praxie's unified NoSQL database, and we can use that for storage, indexing, data linking, and orchestration. But one of the great things we can do with Praxie structure is we can bring in AI, bring in data from all of these areas and apply AI to it. And what AI is really good at, this slide's useful if you guys are looking at how do I apply AI in my business in a way that actually matters and can pragmatically improve outcomes. AI has a number of core functionalities that you can do with it. You can analyze and categorize data. So you get that data, you analyze it. What are the top types of errors, et cetera. It can also notify and focus you on those particular pieces of information. So you can set up different monitoring structures that will, flash the red light, let you know that a particular problem is going on that you can address. It then will summarize and report on information. So it can pull together, what are the most common issues you're addressing in your value stream maps, or your Gemba walks, or your 5S audits, et cetera. It can provide suggestions and suggested solutions around the types of issues you're addressing. So if you run into particular things in Gemba walks or your failure modes, here's the types of things you might try, and it looks across the internet at the best practices and suggests those. It can then generate action plans for you, so you can track all the actions and assign those to your teams, and it can monitor progress. So if you think about all of these things that AI can do inside your organization, that's a huge cost savings and a huge additional capability for your workers, for those connected workers to have this level of support in all of the processes they're doing. Then from a Praxie concept, what we do is we take this AI capability that's dealing with the data, and we turn those into specific applications like your FMEA, which we're going to show, that can track and manage an entire process using AI as its backbone. Now, when you do this kind of work across the platform, you can do lots of very interesting things with the platform, like KPI identification. And we're doing webinars on each of these, and we'll continue to do more of them. And there are more. There's a half a dozen more use cases that are quite obvious here. But KPI identification, often people don't understand what KPIs they should be tracking. AI can support that. It can support brainstorming. It's about 2 times more creative than your average person, so you come up with a lot of information. It can do automated reporting on status and data set summaries, audits and Gemba walk support, employee notification and training, root cause analysis, AI maintenance work orders, that can track and this is not even predictive maintenance, but using AI to identify failure types and address them. Production scheduling, optimization, quality control, and this FMEA is in that sort of bucket, but there's a lot of areas in quality control we can add. So, back to AI and how to use it. Please consider these, and happy we can talk more. You can send in additional ideas, but these are the core functionalities that AI can do, and you can apply those to your processes and really drive extraordinary outcomes. And this is not theoretical. This is not the kind of stuff that, hey, I can have a AI model that might do something really interesting for me. This is very pragmatic. This is about optimizing your current processes, helping you know where to look, where the answers lie, and driving processes that can help your team optimize your production and manufacturing plan. So that's an overview of failure mode analysis and how AI benefits it. Now, when you look at failure mode analysis briefly, what the benefits are, it should dramatically help with your quality, increase reliability because you're addressing those potential failures. Obviously, risk mitigation, that's you're trying to avoid those failure modes. Cost savings because your quality of your products and preventive maintenance and all the kinds of things that are applied to that. Should enhance safety because some of your failure modes are safety related and so dramatically improve that. Regulatory compliance, which we talked about, customer satisfaction, efficient solving of problems. And really, this is where the AI comes in and really helps. And in a second, Gabriel's going to demonstrate, and you'll see that. And then continuous improvement and cross-team collaboration. So these are the benefits of failure mode element analysis. And I'm going to turn this over. Now we've got the super futuristic looking background where we've got an intelligent mind that's going to help us do our failure mode analysis. And I'll turn this over to Gabriel.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Michael. I'm going to share my screen. And I'll start with what Michael just mentioned. Many of you probably have seen this template, if not this version, something extremely similar. We have this version, but if you just search the internet for FMEA, you're going to get a template very similar to this one, where you take one process, you just describe who's responsible, and then you start describing each one of the steps of that process and trying to understand what is their risk priority before, kind of baseline, and then you do some actions, which is what you type here, and then you do another assessment, and then you hope that actually your risk priority will decrease for that specific step. As if you have ever dared to try to do this in this template, it's a good framework, but then immediately starts to become with a lot of limitations. So this starts to actually get a lot of rows, and then you're gonna try to type more information about, details on what could be wrong, or even the description of the step could be significantly bigger. And recommended actions is hard for you to type here. And then by the moment you actually end up using this template, you might need to scroll out and have like a tiny font that it becomes a little bit less usable. And by the way, if you want to categorize each one of the these elements, detection, occurrence, or severity, that there are specific labels that needs to be used in order to qualify, and you need to go back and forth between tabs. So it's not the most usable. So the task that we did.
Also, every single process requires its own spreadsheet.
Yes.
With the whole folder of spreadsheets, that the data is not accessible because it's all sitting in dozens of Excel sheets, et cetera.
Exactly. You end up with tons of Excel files everywhere. And typically that creates overhead and people having to focus too much on the process and not on the content. So what we decided to do is, part of our suite of quality management, we have a module called FMEA. This is primarily how it looks like. It starts with a list of processes, so you can have multiple processes within this application. You can create a new process here, but I'll show you this one. Assume I have a brewery, and one of the specific processes I need to go through in my brewery is fermentation. So turning pretty much sugars into alcohol. And you have kind of the basic elements up here that comes in the template.
One of the greatest discoveries of all time, by the way.
Yes. So you have the description, you can say who's responsible, who prepared, when it was the last review, etc. And then you have the ability to add multiple steps, as many as you need to. So on this Excel file that I was just mentioning, it gets to a point that actually, if you have more than 5 steps, starts to become a little bit cumbersome. Here you can have literally dozens of steps, and it depends on each company is different. So some of them, they need 3, some of them they need 20. So this tool allows you to actually create a bunch of processes. Let me show you. In this case, I have 3 processes I've been working on. The first one is pretty much more or less complete. I already did some failure mode analysis. I have my pre-RPN, and then I implemented some actions, and I have a post. I have another one that is work in progress, and I have another one that is brand new. So I'm going to show you the one that is already kind of completed in terms of the actions. here is the basic steps that you're going to see over and over in each one of the process steps. Is you need to identify what is that process, and you can be as detailed as you need to. So we have plenty of space because clients have asked us to do that. And then you put together a list of potential failure modes. So it could be a single sentence, or it could be a list of those. Then you do the assessment, and the assessment says, okay, for these failure modes, what could happen? You document it properly. This will typically inform what could be the potential root causes, and then what are the current controls that you have for that step. That will help you to come up with an estimate about the three main elements of FMEA, which is severity. What is the effect, how big it is. Could be very high, moderate, low, very low. That will generate a score. You have another column here about detection. What is the chances that you're going to be able to detect that issue? Goes from very remote or nearly impossible the way to very high or almost certain. And then how often can it occur? And based on these ratings, these categorizations, it will give you a risk priority number. Once this priority number is available, then we can actually coming up and start treating the effects. And I'll show you step by step. AI can help us to generate action plans. And then once actually those actions are implemented, we can come in and do another assessment, and then hopefully this RPN will come down. So I just flew through that. Now I'm going to show you a specific example of how this works. I'll use step number 3 here. Step number 3 comes in, and in this specific step, we just need to make sure that temperature, pressure, everything is fine for fermentation purposes. And then if we have any challenge with the temperature, then everything goes south. So in terms of the assessment, I can come in and say, if it's too hot, it will make will have issues. If it's too low as well, we can ask AI to help us generate potential causes. These typically failure mode effects are not very common out there, so it's not that we can ask AI. We could, but we can also ask AI to generate potential causes about these issues with temperature. And then what we do is we take the information about the step, about the process, about the description, about the failure mode effects, and we fit it into our model that is very secure. It's not like ChatGPT that Google can use or OpenAI can use actually to train their models. Here I can come up and send that information and get a result that is within the context, and say, you can have issues with the controls. You can have influence outside, external influence that actually can affect that temperature. You can have yeast strain sensitivity. So the raw material could be an issue, or the vessel could be incorrect, or human error, right? So any of these could be a potential root cause. And that will help
Just
you
take a
very,
second,
very
Bill.
quickly.
I mean, what's great about this, just, if you have employees, and all of us only have the experience we have, this is the AI doing its suggestion around looking at the entire internet's worth of information and saying, these are the kinds of things that people with these particular types of problems have found to be the potential root causes. It's incredibly powerful to help support your connected worker.
And someone with experience can come in and can actually enrich this, or actually say, no, I'm 100% sure this is not one of those potential causes, remove it, not be part of the analysis. And it's still extremely valuable to have an initial set to start with. It just saves a lot of time and effort. And then you can have, what are the controls that you're using here in terms of temperature. Based on this information, I can say, if something happened, it's not going to be hazardous, but actually it can have a very high impact in the production. Chances of detection are relatively high because we have the right monitors. And then how often it can occur? Well, actually it can occur several times a day. So there you go. So we have an RPN of 240 right there. So it tells us that this is an important issue. And if we want to treat this issue, we can also go back and ask AI to give us some ideas on how we can treat this issue. We can say, give me 3 ideas, 5 ideas, 7 ideas. I'm going to just generate a very quick action plan for this specific issue with those potential root causes is going to look like. Again, all of this information is being sent, coming back, and it's going to give you a very quick action plan. In this case, we asked for 3. So there you go, 1, 2, 3. We can install alarms. We can implement maintenance schedule. We can train the operators so they can actually know and track those. If those are good enough, we just say, yeah, this is great. Or, you know what, within that list, I don't think I'm going to get exactly what I need to prevent that failure. So I'm going to generate 5 ideas instead of 3. There you go. Coming back is giving me 5 ideas in terms of what I can do to actually help with this issue and keep the temperature correct. So once I do that, at this moment, I can go back to my list. And as you can see here, now the template, the Excel template, we start filling it out with a lot of detail. You know, I can mouse over and see all the details here, but then I have a space for each one of these steps to work against. And then any of these new steps that we just generated, I can just come in and have a master plan for this task. So in this master plan, as you can see, I already solved the first issue. The other one is in progress. But then I can also say to AI, hey, bring me all the actions from all the steps. And it's going to aggregate all those actions into this project management widget. So it's going to be ready for me to assign tasks and assign new activities owners into each one of those new tasks that I'm generating in each one of these steps. So it's taken a little bit of time, but it's going to give it like the proper framing and wording so this becomes usable. And now look, it just came in and generated a list of actions based on the last step. Then I can actually just come in and assign a specific date range for each one of these, and then just send it to somebody for them to start tracking on this specific action item. So this is an example of how I can, now I have like an AI-powered FMEA model with a process broken apart into individual steps, and then broken apart into individual actions that I can track, and I make sure that that happens. Now, at this moment in time, probably my manager, Michael, is going to tell me, give me a summary of what's going on. What is the latest on this? I can actually click here. And what it's going to do, AI is going to take all the information from all the action items, from all these steps, and all the scores, and he's going to come back and he's going to give me a very brief summary, because senior leadership doesn't have time to read a lot, on what's going on with this specific step and what are my specific actions related to FMEA in regards with this step, which is fermentation.
That summarization, and you know, Gabriel, I don't think it's in this implementation, but if you go back to your list of all your FMEAs, your process steps, maybe I'm wrong, you could create a list where using a time-based workflow that you're running all these FMEAs, and it would be creating a summary of all of them for executives to come look at at any time.
Absolutely correct. Yeah. Here's a roll-up of all the activities across all the steps. So at any moment in time, when you would like to manage this process and all the processes that you're dealing with FMEA, you can have it in a single list of items to track, and just to make sure that everything is moving along as expected.
And you can trend your pre and post RPNs on charts, so you know you have that kind of visibility. In this case, it's showing it in lists, but we have the ability to do it in charts, etc. So thank you, Gabriel. That's awesome.
Sure.
So we'll take a few minutes and answer any questions before we wrap things up. We try to keep these things fairly close. We will send out, by the way, the information to everybody, so that you have the presentation and can contact us. Let me share my screen. I'll put my contact information so you guys can see this. So, you know, we do digital transformation. This is one of hundreds of different processes. Everything's got access to our AI engine, so we can provide the same sort of power to all of those things. And if you'd like to reach me, this is my email address. Happy to set up. You can also go to praxie.com and we can set up a time to talk if you're interested in this or any of our other digital transformation solutions. So are there any quick...
Michael, we have a question from
Yeah,
Ronald right here. Do we offer this solution complete on-premise?
We don't. Everything that you see is it sits on the Google Cloud. It's highly secure. We have, public companies that are running their innovation and product strategies and other processes on Praxie. So from a security standpoint, it's very secure. We interact with on-premise systems all the time. So we have connectors that'll connect to SQL databases or, APIs that are sitting on-premise. But our system is strictly cloud-based. Any other questions about FMEA other stuff? Okay, well, we want to keep it to a half an hour anyway.
Here you go. Thanks. Oh, Ronald, just answer.
Yeah. And honestly, from a security standpoint, everybody has different opinions about this, but we find it, more secure because, when you have servers on premise, you have to maintain a massive amount of security on premise, et cetera, where the security processes we're driving are all managed by some of the smartest people in the world at Google. So we don't have any of our own servers. Everything's containerized. It's a very modern environment. So we feel really good about our security and would love to talk with all of you guys. So that's our FMEA solution set for today around intelligent and AI-driven FMEA. Look forward to speaking with each and all of you. Reach out to us and we'll talk to you on our next webinar. Thanks so much, everyone.